Hi there everybody, we're going to quickly look at Pythagoras, Pythagoras' theorem, okay? So if you've never come across this before, Pythagoras' theorem only works in right-angled triangles. So your triangle must have a right angle in it for this to work, okay? It's used to find missing sides when you know the other two, okay? So this is Pythagoras' theorem. So essentially it's a formula, but of course you'll get more familiar with this the more and more you use it. So a squared equals b squared plus c squared, essentially. All right, it's important to recognize that this formula is about the square of the two smaller sides is equal to the square of the larger side being c, the hypotenuse, which is opposite the right angle. All right, so your right angle is going to be here, and that squared plus that squared equals that squared, and it makes no difference if they're a, b's or c's or not. It's about the two smaller sides squared is equal to the hypotenuse squared. All right, but that's just a formula which is you'll come across an awful lot. Okay, so find the length of the hypotenuse here. Well, again, right angled triangle, you've told it's hypotenuse, so it's definitely right angled. So 5 squared plus 2 squared square rooted is what you need to do. So if I'm going to put the numbers in here, well, 2 squared plus 5 squared equals c squared, they call it. Well, that means 4 plus 25 equals c squared. So 29 equals c squared. Well, I've already kind of mentioned it. Because this equals c squared, I need to square root it at the end. All right, so c is equal to square root of 29, which is 5.39 to 2 decimal places. All right, so that is Pythagoras, essentially, to find the hypotenuse. Okay, so let's have another look at another one. So let's do it relatively quickly. So I've got these at my a and b, essentially. So then again, it doesn't matter which way around I do it. So 7 squared plus 9 squared equals 130, and square root it is going to give you 11.4. All right, and you'll notice, and you should be all right with this one, you should recognize this, that your answer here must be bigger than your other two sides. All right, you've got 9 and 7, so 11.4. You've got 5 and 2, and it's 5.39. So it's got to be the longest side, certainly with the hypotenuse. That's what you've worked out, the longest side. What happens if you're working out one of the smaller sides? All right, well, you do the same kind of process, the same kind of formula applied, but rather than adding, you are going to subtract. All right, because ultimately what we've said is this one squared plus this one squared equals this one squared. Well, I can't add these two because I don't know what this one is. So the only way I can do it is if I do this one squared minus this one squared. All right, so same as before, you kind of got to recognize that you've got the longest one, so that's the one that you need to start with. So 11 squared minus 4 squared, you've got to start with the longest one. It's going to give you x squared, so that means 105 equals to x squared, and then square root it is going to give you 10.25. Again, it has to be smaller than 11, doesn't it? Which of course it is. Same idea over here. So which is the long side? Well, the long side is 32. And again, I'm looking for a shorter side. So it's going to be 32 squared minus 15 squared. And then, of course, square root it at the end, which is going to give you 28.27. All right. Finally, well, you might be asked, and this is, again, they seem to like this one an awful lot more, is whether or not it is a right angle triangle or not. All right. So what that means essentially is they're going to give you all three sides, and they're going to say to you, is it a right angle triangle? Well, if it's a right angle triangle, then what we're saying is that squared plus that squared equals that squared. If it's a right angle triangle, so does that work? And if it does work, then you can say yes, it does, and therefore it must be a right angle triangle because it applies, and this only works in a right angle triangle. So if it doesn't work, then it's not a right angle triangle. So let's have a look. So is 5 squared plus 12 squared 13 squared? Well, 25 plus 144 is 169, is 13 squared. So yes, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So the triangle is right angled. All right. So you'll see that will kind of come up an awful lot more. Right. So that's Pythagoras that's from Pythagoras, effectively. So what you're going to do now is you're hopefully, going to go away and practice it. Obviously, go to maths-school.co.uk where there's a bunch of questions, as there always is. And if you need any more assistance, then of course you can come back to the lesson anytime you like, and the videos are always available online. All right, thanks for listening.